Well, actually, in today's video, we're going to do the CFS 6 months look. Hey, today, we're going to have a look at the CFS V2 model in terms of its 700 millibar height anomaly prediction, and also its prediction for temperature and precipitation that correspond with those 700 millibar height anomalies for the next 6 months. So this will be taking us, would you believe, to the end of the year, to December. So we're going to go right way up to the end of 2014. With this particular update. Been a very warm start to the year, been a very warm first half to the year, I should say. It's early days, but we're on course easily at the moment for the warmest year on record. It'll be interesting to see whether the model is seeing anything particularly cooler coming up in the second half of the year, because as it stands at the moment, we really are on course to batter the previous warmest year on record, which I believe was 2006. Now, before I get on with the forecast, just want to say about the advertising. There's video ads. I page it. It's at gasworthvids.com. Hit play on the video ad. You'll be supporting gasworthvids.com. Thanks so much for doing that. The video ad essentially pays for the website, so if you could hit play on it and see what it's about, maybe watch some of it, don't necessarily have to watch all of it, but watch some of it, see what the ad is about, you'll be helping to support gasworthvids.com. And thanks so much for doing that. So we're going to start off with July. This 700 millibar height anomaly prediction for July. I don't want to dwell on this too much because it made up a big part of the July month ahead forecast, which was released just a couple of days ago. For July, the model is seeing an area of above average heights. That's high pressure really sitting to the west of the country, ridging in at times. We've got the jet stream running over top of the high pressure and down in towards central parts of Europe. So that potentially is a reasonably settled signal for July, but at times the jet stream is niggling away running through the country like that. So yeah, we will be seeing some unsettled conditions coming through at times, and cooler conditions as well. But overall, it's not a bad signal really for July, although it's not the sort of anomaly that we had last year for July 2013. I don't think we're going to be seeing that sort of extensive hot and dry weather lasting throughout the month. But nevertheless, it's not a bad signal really, have high pressure just there. Now for August, it's a little bit different for August, because it's not really seeing much at all actually. August has been a hard month pinned down for quite a long time actually when I've been doing these videos. The signal hasn't been great for August, and it still isn't, to be honest. The above average high anomaly has gone to the west, so presumably there's going to be some sort of pattern change, but quite what pattern change is too, it's hard to say. I've got an area above average heights up there. That's sort of hinting at some sort of northern blocking maybe up over the Arctic, but quite what's going on there for us, I'm not sure. We could well be seeing a bit of a strengthening maybe of the jet stream. So what I suspect could happen with this is over the next 2 or 3 weeks we may start to see this turning more unsettled, with blue below average heights, blue colours appearing somewhere in the Atlantic or around the British Isles for August, which would mean a more unsettled month. But that's really quite a hard anomaly to say what is going on there. It's easier for September, funnily enough. We're going further out, and you would expect the signals to be getting weaker, but not necessarily the case. For September, we've got a nice area of above average heights there, building in across countries. Of course, as I've explained in past updates when I've been doing this, September is very often a settled month. It very often has prolonged spells of high pressure, so you wouldn't necessarily be surprised at that sort of a signal for September. And there we are seeing quite a high pressure, or above average heights anyway, dominated December, if that is right. Have a look at the temperature and precipitation anomalies that go with that, but overall that looks quite a good signal. For October, a complete flip around, and it's much more autumnal, I suppose. This is pretty much what you'd expect in a typical October. A big area of below average heights setting up around Iceland and Greenland, running the jet stream through right across the country. So that is potentially a very unsettled looking signal for October. Could be a wet and windy month if that's correct. Going through to November, well, it's still got that area of below average heights actually in the Atlantic around Iceland and Greenland, but it's a weaker signal actually than we had for October. So maybe things easing off a little bit in terms of the depressions, the areas of low pressure coming in off the Atlantic. Although this is going a long way out now, this is 5 months out, so further out we go, the more unreliable the signal is getting. So really, just for fun, when we're going this far out, don't take it too seriously. Got an area of above average heights down here around the Canary Islands and extending to the west of Portugal. So again, you would expect winds generally to be westerly or southwesterly, probably quite a mild month with high pressure there and the low pressure to the north. It's a positive North Atlantic oscillation anyway, that, and I think generally quite a mild but not particularly wet and stormy month. And then as we go through to December, finally, we end the year potentially on a very unsettled note once again, but it's 6 months away, so don't take it too seriously. But below heights really dominating through much of the central northern part of the Atlantic, jet stream again running through, something like that. So it's a generally very unsettled month. There'll be bouts of wind and rain coming in off the Atlantic, and probably quite mild as well, you have to say. There's no real sign of any particular northern blocking there, so the low pressure really holds sway. Probably quite a mild, wet and windy December, if that's right. But let's see how the temperatures correspond to all of that. And this is the July temperature forecast. We're looking at an average month, or an average signal there really for most parts of the country. But notice how cool it is. I put this out on the July month head forecast. Notice how cool it is there across most of the continent. That is quite unusual. The reason that's happening is that the jet stream is running around the high pressure sitting just there. Jet stream is running to the top of it and then coming down, something like that, or maybe jet stream more aligned over British Isles, so I'll just do that again very quickly. The jet stream is coming down, something like that. Anyway, we've got a bit of a trough setting up across certain parts of Europe, so cool air is digging down into much of Europe. For us, the signal is near normal. It could actually be a little bit warmer than average. I think that high pressure extending in off the Atlantic quite frequently, but certainly no sign of anything really hot coming up for July. I would suggest if it's going to be above average, it won't be that much above average, probably just half a degree or so is what I went for in the July month head forecast. Going through to August, the signal again is not strong. It's a weak 700 millibar height anomaly prediction for August. It's a weak temperature prediction, so again we're in those sort of near normal temperatures there, and most of Europe actually has very weak temperature signals for August. A really hard month to pin down, I think August is proving. For September again, the signal is very weak. It's near average, but with the high pressure or above average heights extending in across the country, I would suspect probably a warmer than average month. I would suspect that these warmer than average anomalies over Scandinavia would become much more extensive and extend in from the east, so potentially a mild month for September. For October, it's looking milder than average for much of Europe. It's an Atlantic-driven month, so we've got winds coming in off the Atlantic, feeding in areas of low pressure, so you would expect it to be quite mild for many parts of Europe. We could be included in that, although by October, of course, Atlantic-driven weather can potentially be on the coolest side, so maybe near average temperatures would be a more sensible prediction for us for October. It depends on the exact orientation of the winds. Going through to November, it's above average again, so nothing particularly cold showing up on this update. There's nothing here that would suggest we're going to go away from this very warm start that we've had to 2014, or the warm first half we've had. There's nothing to suggest we're going to offset it, so we could well be on course for the warmest year on record on the face of these anomalies anyway. A very mild November coming up there. Again, once you get this far out with the model, it really is just for fun. I do have to keep emphasising this as I do these videos. It's not to be relied upon. CFS changes on a 6 months very often. So when we're going this far out towards the 4, 5, 6 month away mark, really is in the realm of speculation. But we end up in December again with most of Europe on the milder side of average, but extending in to British Isles. Again, it's not surprising because the 700 millibar height prediction is for an Atlantic driven month with low pressure moving in off the Atlantic, and that would be mild, of course, in December. Now, the precipitation forecasts that go with these temperature and 700 millibar height anomaly predictions finally, and for July we're looking at a drier than average month here, substantially drier than average actually around the country, so yeah, it could be quite a dry month for high pressure sitting just to west and southwest. It's not surprising, but as I say, it's not going to be completely dry because at times the jet stream is going to come down from the northwest and niggle into that high pressure, so there will be rain coming through at times, so I don't think we're going to have a drought, but certainly on the drier side of average is to be expecting. Now, for precipitation for August, we're seeing that it's turning a little bit wetter than average here in the west and the northwest of the country, a little bit drier than average for England and Wales, but much of Western Europe actually suggested to be quite a bit above average with the rainfall. That includes France, much of northern Spain. So I think what's going on for August is very hard to make it out on these, particularly the 700 mm high tonight prediction, but I think what's going on for August is that we're probably losing the heights to the west, so we're probably losing that high pressure to the west country, and we're probably strengthening the jet stream. So if anything, we could be getting sort of a deterioration through August, but it's very subtle. It certainly isn't something that you could run away with that idea that that's what the model is predicting, but reading between the lines, and very often the art of forecasting is to read between the lines of the model, because they don't always lay out the information as clearly as you would like. So reading between the lines, we're probably seeing an August that deteriorates and turns more unsettled, but it is a very, very hard one to call as we go through to August. Now for September, easily enough, it's going to be average or a below average precipitation now, and it's not surprising because the high pressure, the above average heights, is dominating through the British Isles and on into Central Northern Europe. Of course, as I say, September is very often a dry month. Completely different as we get through to October, with precipitation coming out above average widely across the country. Could be a proper wet month, and there may be some gales as well thrown in with such an active Atlantic. Things drying out a little bit as we go through to November. That's because the trough is easing off a bit in the Atlantic. Still probably an Atlantic-driven month, so that's why it's milder than average, but probably not as wet as it is for October. And then finally going through to December, again, very Atlantic-driven sort of month. So again, for December, you expect the rainfall to come out above average, and that's what it's going for most of Central and Western and Northwestern Europe. British Isles is included. We're average to wetter than average there, as is most Central Europe. If you want one crumb of comfort for anybody wanting some cold weather, particularly to go through to December, is perhaps this area of below average precipitation up over Norway. That could just be the first signs of some sort of area of high pressure developing there. Also, it's a little bit drier than average, perhaps for Iceland. So again, that could just be the first signs of some sort of high pressure developing there. And of course, if that happens, it does start to push colder air down into the mid latitudes, but it's 6 months away anyway, so I wouldn't get too hung up on it either way, to be honest. It's just a little bit of comfort there, perhaps, if you want something a bit cold, because on the face of it, there's nothing particularly cold coming up over the second half of 2014. So they've been very warm first half. We're easily on course for the warmest year on record if these charts are right, and that's the caveat as always, because the CFS V2 model is not to be relied upon. It's always experimental and just for fun, really. But if the signals here are right, we are probably looking at a very warm year and probably a record breaker in terms of the warmest year on record. So that'll be quite significant if that does come up. But a long way to go yet. We're only at July. We've got many months still to go. So we'll see how it pans out. Do another CFS 6 months look ahead next month for August. And of course, the August one. Very interesting, because that's going to take us into the first month, January of 2015. So we'll be starting to think about next year on next month's CFS 6 months look ahead. That's it for now. I hope you found the video interesting and informative. It's just for fun. Don't get too hung up on it, whatever you do. That's all for now. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Bye for now.